All right, I'm dialing into this draft coming up. I was going to finish up my leverage coverage, or not my second part. Going to do it on Monday because this draft is so critical for so many reasons. For projecting where this team's going this year and beyond, obviously storing talent, having some kind of respectable season this year. And it just takes me a while to really dial in on some things. But I want to talk about a tip I got from Al from 3 yards per carry in our last interview, and it's been on my mind a ton. And it's about Tyler Shough, quarterback from Arizona. And I'm going to get into it here. But this guy might be one of the most intriguing prospects of the draft. And the Dolphins are looking at him. And there is a lot of stuff on when he goes, where he goes. But clearly, I went through his tape and I've been researching this kid. Clearly, is a major red flag as far as health. But if you watch any film of this kid or anybody who's been near him and talks to him, there's something special going on here. And it's a huge riverboat role in a lot of ways. But I clearly think the Dolphins have him on the radar, should have him on the radar. And I want to get into him today because if you're not fully aware of this kid, it could flip what we're doing here in Miami if we do draft him and some things break right. This kid is truly a special talent. Unfortunately, the injury part has been amazing. He's been injured every one of his 3 seasons. He's been in college for 7 years. He's 25-year-old quarterback. And right away, I was like, all right, 12th round type stuff. But Al had talked about how Marvin Allen, usually he just gets the dossiers and he looks them over. But he's been visiting some places, and one of the places he went to was to go to the pro day where Tyler Shough was at. And that says a lot, a huge deal, because as Alf told me, when he was with Kansas City, he was the guy driving for Mahomes. Then he went to the Bills, and he's the guy who drove the Bills, a big voice, driving it to Allen. Now it looks like he's getting more power in this franchise. Thank God. Let's hope Greer's gone. And the fact that he's looking at this kid and he fits most of the same prototype and skill set as Mahomes and Allen. And this kid could possibly be a guy that some are saying in the first round. I think that's crazy. But if you hit it right, it'd be a smart move. Second round, I still think it's a little crazy. But this kid could be in the 3rd or 4th round. And if so, I think the Dolphins must pull the trigger on him. And I'll get into all that here. So, Tyler Shough, 6'5", 219. When he plays, he's unbelievable. He's fearless. Every time you talk to somebody, he's fearless. And you watch the film, this guy does not get rattled. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to play Greg Cosell, who thinks he's the second best quarterback in the draft, obviously with the red flags involved. And then another one, and a little clip at the end, what is the guy? Former ESPN, Dan Patrick, talks about what this kid's response was to these red flags. And he is a fearless leader, smart. He's been in multiple schemes throughout the course of his career. And you got to keep that in mind too, that some of the stuff, why he isn't as big and maybe even injured, is because the framework wasn't really good. But this kid is, like I say, he's tall, he's mobile, ran a 4.69 40, big arm, not Allen's or Mahomes, but maybe a level below that, but it is big. I'll get into that a little bit, why I think it's so critical for what we do here, and it could really change things in a dramatic way. Experience, lots of experience, 25. Cosell's going to talk about at the end. He's not really concerned about the age. Listen, you want to get a quarterback at 22, like Dan Marino, and play till he's 36. or later, but at 25, he can have a 12-year career and still be in 20 to 35-year range. And if you get a kid like this later in the draft and he pans out, the value, even if it's a slightly curtailed career because of his age, it's well worth it. And I'm not really big, just like Cassell, on his age. Character, unbelievable character, true leader. And the way he responds to adversity. Life is all about adversity. How do you respond to it when you get punched in the nose? And this kid's response is unbelievable. He's super tough. There was one I didn't know about, but a guy who was covering the game, he broke his fibula, I think, last season and got up to play the next play and was ready to throw that football when they stopped it and took him out. He was ready to play on a broken fibula. Super tough. And the bone things have been a problem, but I'm going to get into that a little bit, why I think there's some mitigating factors. He can roll right and roll left. He's got a very tight, not Tua Marino-esque release, but it's very tight, no wasted motion, and it is very fast. Again, it works with what McDaniel wants to do and what we do here. And it's always good to have a fast release. He works off script for the most part very well, and he had to. The guy was constantly pressured in the film that I watched. Arizona's offensive line was very good in run blocking, but terrible in pass blocking, and he was constantly under duress. He does lock on certain receivers too long and doesn't migrate to his other reads at times. That's one of the knocks. Again, smart. When you've got fearless leadership, smart, huge arm talent, at the third round and beyond, it's value. It is total value. He processes well post snap, and you could see him, but he does tend to lock a little bit, and that is one of the knocks again, but it's very small. Now, that arm and quick release is so big for us. I want you to take a look at this little image I have here. I mean, you all know what the cover 2 looks like, and this is the normal coverage for a cover 2. You see in the middle of the Mike linebacker, he drops or he floats to one side or the other. The wills, they're kind of playing the boundaries a little bit. Cornerbacks, they're playing underneath to about 10 to 15. The safeties, they kind of split out and they split in half one segment of the field. When you split the field in half, they're in the middle of that. And then you rush to 4. Now, this is not a knock on Tua, but Tua's inability to throw those deep outs allows those either the will or the nickel, the Sam, which sometimes is the Mike, whatever. Sometimes it'd be Will, Mike, and then the nickel. They compress the middle of that field and they forego those pockets in the deep outs because Tua's arm is just not strong enough. It's strong enough if the hole is big enough, the spacing, the separation is big enough, but he doesn't have the velocity and power to get it there. And so teams have said, listen, we're going to kind of let that kind of linger there and see if Tua can prove us wrong. And we're going to take away those pocket posts, the middle of the field, crowd that middle of the field, crowd the short for the outside runs and the screens, and then play over the top, keep everything in front. But his arm is so strong, and his release and his ability to buy time will force cover 2 to respect that a ton more. And by doing that, that will open up the middle field and give a full route tree for receivers and create a hesitancy and a pause and to play defense on defense instead of attacking. This is not, again, a knock on Tua. We could have done a lot of things to offset that flaw of his, but we haven't. Hopefully we do going forward. But this kid's arm talent is exceptional. Not top of the top, but it is pretty darn good. He throws with power. He can throw with accuracy. He has really good touch, short and distance. It looks like it's kind of floating, but the trajectory is low, and it kind of comes in at this. It's like Eric Dickerson, and a coach would say to him, Eric, you got to run fast. And he's like, I'm running fast as I can. But his strides were so long. That's the way this ball comes out. And it is a beautiful thing. You got to go watch tape on it. So the fact that this guy's arm talent and his ability to move, release, and smarts, he can start taking from defenses. Tua really can't. He can take it over the middle with the speed of throw and the anticipatory throwing. But when you've got this kind of arm and you can get on the move the way this kid can move, you can literally take deeps. You can take the middle. You can take the outs. And then you can take, because now they're worried about the movement. This kid, you don't take a lot from the NFL defenses. It's spot moments. But this kid has that ability, and it would uplift what we're doing here in a perfect sense, because, there's a lot from here to there, going from college to the pros. He's got to stay healthy. But this kid's just base skill set, it is the kind that would uplift what we have here. He's not going to throw like Tua with the quick release in those pocket posts like Tua does. And he's not as much of an anticipatory thrower. They're both gunslingers. But once you can take those deep outs, it changes how everything is done. And I think he would be huge here. Now, like I said, he does linger. There's a little bit of the post snap, but he works well within the framework of an offense. And that's something McDaniel can set up here. And I think that in what we're doing here, it would really give McDaniel and this offense a chance to shine. Not saying more than Tua, because Tua does some great things. If we built right around Tua, I think the kid can play. Obviously, they both have injury histories. But his overall skill set and who he is as a person, he's a far more leader type in that sense, where he'll command things and he'll be more aggressive to his team from everything I'm seeing. But obviously the injuries, he's broken his collarbone, I think twice, his tibia once, a lot of broken bones. But a lot of those broken bones happen because he is constantly under duress. He waits to the last minute. He'll take the shot and deliver it, which can be good or bad. But here in Miami, with what McDaniel can do with the quick throw, he can keep a lot of heat off this kid. And he can also learn to, like, hey, you know what? Just like Tua, I've got to get rid of this ball because my health is more important. But there's really not a lot of knocks. It's a huge knock with the injuries, but it's not. I saw somebody say he had a ligament tear at one point. So you got to be real. The injury thing is a concern, but the potential. Now, I don't think the Dolphins should take him in the first round. I don't even think they should take him in the second round. But that third round comp pick, if you got that for Hunt, just imagine getting that comp pick for Hunt and then bringing in Shough here. That would make that comp pick and the loss of Hunt, it would totally blow it away. It would be worth it. And we have to understand, we have Wilson here, we have Tua. Bring this kid in. We're a West Coast system. Bill Walsh always said, you can never have too much quarterbacks, and he kept shooting at it. And guys, we're not really going anywhere this year, and probably not next year. We're probably going to reset a lot in 27. And so rolling, Ty Robinson, I think, is a nice pick. There's some other guys, the safeties in the third round. But if this kid falls to that third round, 98, I think it would be so wise to grab him, put a fire under Wilson, put a fire under Tua, show that you're really committed to building up this group. And if Tua can play this year and you can get Wilson to look good, these are assets. And even if you get Shough for a couple of years and he looks great, look at Milton from the Patriots. They got him for a 6th. They traded him for a 5th after 1 year of development. And that's what I think this team's got to do, reset the foundation. People are still saying, well, why aren't you so high on the offensive line this year, getting picks for that? There's a bunch of reasons. I'm going to get into that next. But we've got to start from square one. I don't think we need to rip the thing apart like 2019. But part of this square one is get this quarterback room right. Get assets in the quarterback room, develop them, and then however you play it, you win when they develop. Look at the Patriots. They drafted Brissett, and they drafted Jimmy G. And I even think the other kid they drafted, and they got a pick for him. But they got 2 seconds for those guys. Just imagine you get Shough in here for a third, or even better, a fourth, develop him, and then you get a second round pick for him. Or one of these other guys in our quarterback room that don't plan out. So this kid Shough, go check his film. It's exceptional. He has one major flaw. It could totally derail everything. But if not, this kid could be a huge steal. And it's not just me. I got this little graphic I wanted to throw up too at the very end. So you can see here how other scouting services rate Tyler Shough. ESPN has the lowest at 45. And that should be a bonus to you. They suck. But look, you might not like PFF, but these guys work with the pros, former pros in it. I think they're good, if not NFL.com. Draft Buzz, where this article comes from. Then you got Sports Talk, Mr. DB, and The Atlantic. I don't know who these guys are, but that's some pretty good. And you add Greg Cosell in there and a lot of other guys who are very high on him. I think it's a great roll of the dice. I'm not saying I don't like to. I do have concerns with him. I've been talking about it for years. But you've got to get the best value. And a roll of the dice at this kid in the third round, if he falls or a little trade up from that third, it's a great chance at value and a lot more. So go check out Shough's tape. I think this kid is, you can see it. You know, I believe quarterbacks, when you hear them talk and you look at their personality, it's a big piece of the puzzle. Goes in this kid talk. Very mature, very smart, very tough. A lot to like about this kid. So check out the last two clips. I'm going to pair them together here. And it's going to leave you with a big on your face. I'm telling you. I thank Al for bringing that information to me. This is a very intriguing. I'm going to be watching this kid, where he's getting drafted, hopefully here, and to see what comes of this kid. He could be a shocker. Hopefully we get him, and he turns out to be that good. So, Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out.
Next best tape, okay, of a college quarterback that I saw was Tyler Shough from Louisville. And I was fascinated by this kid. And I don't know where he's going to get drafted. It would not surprise me at all, Ross, if you start hearing his name. You know, hear people start saying, well, he's going to start moving up. He's 24 years old. I've spoken to former GMs who say that's not an issue at all. If the guy plays 10 years, 12 years, so what? You know, he'll be 36. Quarterbacks play at that age. There's an injury history that's probably a little more concerning. He's 6'5". He's 224. This kid, I loved his tape. You know, he looks the part of an NFL quarterback. He's got clean mechanics. He stayed on the midline. You know, these are the little details that I look for. So many college quarterbacks, they drift. They create their own pressure. They don't do the little details of the position. I mean, this kid played 7 years of college football. I think he's a higher level prospect. I really do. I did. I heard from people in the league who have seen him in person, you know, and stood next to him and watched him throw. And all those comments I got from people in the league were that, hey, you're 100% right. You just have to be around this kid and see him in person, which I obviously will at the combine, but I haven't done that. I've been just watching tape. But normally, the tape tells you so much. You know, I've also spoken to guys who have been GMs in the league who are not the least bit worried about his age. The injury history is a little more concerning.
I asked him point blank, you know, hey, you're 25, you know, your injury history. How do you respond to that when you're in meetings? And he goes, listen, I've been benched. I've won. I've been carted off. I've come back. I've been with 5 offensive coordinators. He goes, basically, I'm paraphrasing, what NFL quarterback hasn't had that experience? And right. I'm the most pro-ready guy there is in the draft.
Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.